drinking this podcast, mate?
I am, mate. Yeah, I'm. I've got a crate of Budweiser which I've been getting for over Christmas. I've got a few of them left, and when the Budweisers have gone, I'm going to have a few ports, mate.
Jeez.
And maybe as a podcast first, or publicly first, anyway, with a port, I might have a few cheese and biscuits, just because I can.
You can't eat into the microphone, mate. You drive people crazy.
I know, mate.
Nothing worse than the sound of someone eating loudly.
Yes, it's true. That's why there's the mute button. So you're going to have to do a lot of talking later on when I get the munchies, mate.
Mate, I always do a lot of talking. That's not going to be hard, is it? It sounds like you're going to get pissed.
Yeah, why not? Yeah, no, I'm going to have a few, mate. Get loose, relaxed, have a little chat. I'm up for it.
Nice. I got a new gin. Bought it today because we just decided on a real last-minute podcast earlier, didn't we? So I picked up a Limehouse rhubarb and ginger gin. I'm on my third one. It's nice, mate. It really is nice. I quite like rhubarb. I like a rhubarb crumble. Bit of ice cream on the side. You cannot beat that. And yeah, this is good. It's a nice gin. It's distilled in London.
It's a definite gin. It's not a gin liqueur, is it?
No, it's gin. It's 37.5%. Yeah, it's proper gin.
What are you mixing it with, Sam?
This ain't cool. Just lemonade.
Oh, that's disappointed.
I know. You were hoping for like a Fever Tree Mediterranean tonic or something, weren't you?
Yeah, normally, mate, you've got the drinks lined up. Like,
no, do you know what? I've had a lot of beer and a lot of different gin and this, that, and the other over Christmas. As we record this, it is the 7th of January. We'll go into that, what's happening in the world in a little bit. But yeah, I've had a lot of beers and stuff like that. So I want to lay off all of that kind of stuff. So obviously it's tradition for us to have a drink on the podcast. So I thought, do you know what? I'll get a bottle of gin. To be honest, I was going to get a bottle of whiskey. Because that's how we kind of started the tipple of the episode, wasn't it? I'd have a different whiskey every week in the early episodes.
Mm-hmm. And I was drinking the gin back then.
You were on the gin back then, yeah. So I kind of wanted to bring it back, but I'll be honest, none of the whiskeys out in the shop really took my fancy. So I thought, do you know what? I'll get a gin. A little bit of a less hangover with a gin as well, aren't you?
It's perfect for that.
Yeah. Anyway, so as I said, I mean, apologies if the listeners, you're listening back to this way in the future, but what's relevant quite now is we've just had the third COVID lockdown announced. We had a bit of good news earlier today, didn't we, mate? We are allowed to go fishing as long as we only do days and as long as we only travel in our local area. So good news, eh? I'm not gonna lie, I was pretty down about the ban on fishing, because if you remember, on first lockdown, we were allowed to fish partway through, weren't we? They changed the rules on us. They said, actually, yeah, you can go and fish. Obviously, all the lakes went mental, which was horrible. And then on the second lockdown, we were allowed to fish. And I thought that would be the case on this one as well. I was like, they're going to let us fish because they let us do it on the last one. But that wasn't the case. But now, great news, we're allowed to fish. Game changer.
Yeah, so I noticed you sort of shared a few bits from the Angling Trust earlier. Have your views on them sort of changed? I remember with the first lockdown, and it was strictly no fishing, and then the Angling Trust were doing a lot of stuff like lobbying the government, blah, blah, blah. And your views on the Angling Trust were probably, you're a bit sort of unsure where their sort of jurisdiction lies, I guess. Have your views sort of changed toward them at all, or?
Do you know what? I don't. I think I probably said this last time. If I didn't say this, I should have. I don't know enough about what they do to actually comment. I mean, if they've been fighting our corner as much as they say they have, I'm not saying they're lying, you know. Then yeah, freaking great. I'm all for them. I just don't really know what they do. I mean, okay, that they've been lobbying for us, as you'd say. Aside from that, so outside of coronavirus, I don't really know what they do for angling. I'm sure they do loads, but yeah, it's just I just don't know enough about them to really comment, mate. To be honest, but I guess without them, we wouldn't be fishing now. So yeah, I think they're great on that alone.
That's it. And this is what I'm sort of really looking into now. So they've sort of stated no overnight fishing. Now,
Yeah.
presumably that means stopping out all night and going fishing. And I want to know where it stands for people who might be in my sort of situation where my wife's going to be working 5 days a week now, Monday to Friday. And I'm at home educating 2 kids, and then I've got a 1-year-old who's like hell bent on just ruining whatever the other two are going to be trying to do. And the idea now for me to go out at 6 o'clock at night when the missus gets home, to get a few hours away until sort of say 10, 11 o'clock, chuck the rods out for a bit. I think my club are strictly sort of outlawing that. I think it's a dusk till dawn sort of situation. I don't know what your sort of thoughts on that are, Sam, or if you know any more than I do.
Dusk till dawn. Do you mean dawn till dusk? You're allowed to fish.
Yes, that's exactly what I mean. Yeah, dawn till dusk.
Yeah, you're talking about a film there or something. You Dusk till dawn, some shit like that. I don't know, mate. I think here's the thing. I'm not saying you're doing this, but we give someone an inch, some people try and take a mile. It's like it's that whole thing of like, well, I can only fish at night, so why can't I? It's like people are going to start taking the piss if they loosen things up too much. I don't know. I haven't thought about it. I suppose it's a bit annoying, but I would say, I don't know, mate. I don't know. The thing is, it's being like we're allowed to go angling because supposedly it's a form of exercise. I don't know how I feel about that, but I'm not complaining. So I guess they would say, well, fair enough, but you could do some form of exercise in the day with your kids.
Yeah, I mean that's a good point, because obviously I'll be going out and about with them in the day anyway. So that would be my one.
Take them fishing. Stop trying to get extra and just take them fishing, Pete.
I tell you what, the club would probably change their stance on letting me go at night if I take all 3 of them.
Yeah. I tell you what, for you're a keen lifelong angler. I'm surprised your kids haven't caught a fish yet.
Harry's caught a rudd, mate.
Oh, you said take him out for his first fish. We're talking about gudgeon for your first fish.
No, yeah, you said that. I just sort of didn't correct the record. Yeah, no, Harry caught a rudd in the summer, my dad's pond, which is cool because obviously it's like the family home. Yeah, obviously very assisted and things, but terrified of it.
Really? I couldn't wait to get Tyler out fishing.
I remember, mate. I remember you had that little yellow rod. He caught a few bream from the backwater.
Yeah, I took him up to Homely Garden Centre. Saw Rob when Rob was running it. Got him a rod, and he loved it. Yeah, he still talks about that. About how he caught a big fish with me. He's 14 years old now. He's a big boy.
It's incredible. That is incredible. Time goes quick.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like yesterday. You'd come into our house at night, go and see fishing. You'd call him Teabag. You remember that? He was just a little kid, like jumping on the back of his, like walking along the back of the sofa. He was tiny.
I was calling him Teabag. Oh, that's awful, isn't it?
Yeah, yes, yeah, it is.
I do remember that now. Yeah.
And now, like, it literally seems, it seems like a very short time ago, and I don't know how old he would have been back then, like 4, and like 10 years just goes in a blink, doesn't it? It's incredible, scary as well, really scary.
That's it. I mean, my daughter, she's going to be a different kettle of fish. Like, she will, I think she'll embrace it. She'll love it, but she'll be hard to keep her attention. But she will sort of, dive into it. She won't be afraid of sort of like holding a fish, and I think she'll really, really enjoy it. But keeping her attention for more than 10 minutes will be difficult.
She is ace. I mean, I don't know her that well, obviously, but she just seems like she's a right little character. It's obviously Harry's ace as well, and I'm sure the baby. What's the baby called?
Martha.
Yeah, I'm sure she's cool, but yeah, she's got a real little character. Your other little girl, isn't she? Is it Edie?
Yeah, Edie. Yeah, she's a little live wire, really, isn't she? She's not afraid to talk to you on the phone. Like, she's got no idea who you are, and she'll just like bam, straight into the conversation.
Yeah.
She joined a podcast once. You remember that? That was weird with Fennel.
Did she?
Yeah, it was right at the end. She obviously woke up. I think it was the early hours of the morning by the time we'd finished recording. And I think she'd woke up in the night and heard me talking. Just come downstairs. It was really
Yeah, we went on for a while with Fennel, didn't we? Yeah.
A lot of the guests we do, mate.
Yeah, I suppose so. I suppose we do. Yeah.
I was saying about the cheese and biscuits earlier. The last one with Dean, mate, I was seriously pissed. And that was the one when I think I've told you, the listeners probably don't know, but I had a few beers and then the conversation was flowing. I mean, that was a long podcast, wasn't it? We're talking sort of 4 hours, maybe more.
Over, and obviously some bits we had to edit out because, like, I don't know, just got too Larry or something. But yeah, it was long. It was a long one, wasn't it? Good old Dean.
But that's the one where I've got nearly a bottle of port's nearly gone now, but I drank all my beers and I went to the booze cupboard and I saw the bottle of port and I was like, result. I did not know I had this. And I drank half the bottle of port, which I regretted massively the following day. And then for the rest of the podcast, mate, I was just like eating cheese and biscuits. I just had the mic on mute. So I was just my own little happy world, like listening to the conversation. Anyway, a couple of weeks later, my missus, it was her friend's birthday and she had bought a bottle of port for her birthday. Little did I know. And she went into the cupboard and she was just like, what? Like, when have you drunk this? And I was just like, no idea. But yeah, there we go.
Do you remember I popped open a bottle of champagne towards the end?
Yeah, maybe I do.
Yeah. Turns out that wasn't my bottle of champagne. That was actually my girlfriend's leaving present. She left work a year ago. Yeah, she was quite bitter about it.
Yeah, I can believe that.
Yeah, that we got out of hand on that one.
Yeah, that one and the Joss one, mate. I was a bit tipsy there. It's always quite amusing though, because we always like phone each other in the morning, like in a real state. But
the most drunk I've been is the Tommy Bish one, and I was absolutely plastered. I couldn't finish the episode. I've said this before, but I couldn't finish the episode. If you listen back to the end of that episode, it just doesn't finish how it normally would. I was absolutely pissed. Talking to Tommy Bish, we've got Tommy Bish. Hopefully, we're going to record that one with him next week. So that'll be good. Good old Tommy Bish. You weren't on for the last one, were you?
No, I wasn't. But no, I'm looking forward to it. I think cracking guest. He was good entertainment anyway on the podcast that I listened to, and he certainly he's good for a podcast, isn't he? Because he's got a tail and he likes to talk.
He is, but we're actually going to get him on for a bit of a photography special. So we did a photography special before, but I'll be honest, Tommy Bish is more qualified than I am to talk about photography. I'm better with like the wildlife stuff. Tommy's most definitely better when it comes to carpy stuff. So he knows more than I do about photography. So yeah, he's going to be coming on. I'm sure he'll fill us in on what he's been doing as well. He's been fishing on Yateley, and I think he's had a few this winter. I'll let him tell it all. But yeah, so that'll be good. But yeah, back on his podcast, I was absolutely hammered. So I'll try not to repeat it on the next one. Anyway, mate, this lockdown, it was announced like 4 days ago, 5 days ago. What have you been doing with your time apart from looking after your rebellious little children?
So obviously I've got a lot of loose ends at work to tie up. So I think a lot of the guys know, but I manage a leisure centre basically. So I've had a lot of work to do. So shutting all of it down, getting all the plant equipment, sort of basically what they call in the trade would be like winterizing a pool. Just doing a lot of stuff with the plant equipment, and then dealing with our members basically and finances. So that's taken a good couple of days, and I've got a massive list of jobs still to do, but finding the time now is pretty tricky. So that's it really, mate. And then, yeah, straight into the homeschooling. So the kids went back to school on the Monday, and then the Monday night, they announced the lockdown. So Tuesday and yesterday, I've just been sort of busy with the kids at home. And that's it, mate. That is it. Before the lockdown was announced, did you sort of cram in any last minute fishing?
Do you know what? No, not as much as I was hoping. I got a winter ticket for a water. There's got a bit of history, isn't it? To be fair, I won't say like where it is or anything, but it's quite a bit of history in that. And I was like, all quite excited to get amongst some of these fish. And to be honest, I have not done anywhere near as much as I was thinking I would, for one reason or the other. So no, I haven't done that much, mate. I think on that water, since I got the ticket, which was mid-November, I think, I've only done 2 nights and 3 days. So not much at all, unfortunately. But I was planning on it. I just didn't get around to it. That being said, obviously, I'll be doing some days now that we're allowed to do days. So yeah, I think probably maybe this weekend or next week. The lake's totally frozen at the minute. Obviously, I can smash the ice, but yeah, I'll probably get out next week, mate. So no, I've been sorting my gear out. I do most winters, to be honest. I think most anglers do, don't they? Sort of take all of the shit out of their bag that's accumulated. I've got a crazy amount of leads in my bag. Like this year's got to be a record for the amount of lead that I'm carrying around. And when I'm in the edge fishing, I'm using sort of like 5-6 ounces as well. So they all get very weighty. So no, I've just been refining down my gear, sharpening the sword, getting ready for spring, really. I'll be angling every week now. Now I've got Christmas out of the way and all of that sort of stuff. So yeah, just refining my gear, really, getting all sorted, clearing everything out, and getting ready for battle.
You still thinking of sort of changing up your rods?
My rods, yeah. I shocked you, didn't I?
You did. Well, yeah. I mean, I fish with some sort of kiddie toy rods, don't I? These little sort of foldable, sort of 10-foot kids' toys, as you like to let me know.
Yeah.
And you're thinking of getting some.
I've always taken the piss out of Pete for using scopes, like the scope rods. I don't know. I've always just looked at them and just thought, what a fucking fad. I've got a 9-foot 3-piece stalking rod, which is great because you like leave it in the boot of your car with, some other bit. You can fish on the fly, so to speak. No pun intended. But yeah, the whole scopes, I've just seen it's a fad. But yeah, do you know what? I think I'm going to get some. I think I'm going to get some, not scopes, but I'll get some retractable rods. I just like the idea of it's very compact. I'm really thinking about how without getting too deep and boring for people, I've been thinking a lot about how I angled this last year, and how I can do it better this coming year. And I can definitely do it a lot better than I have done. I don't have the time now. So most of my carp angling life, I've managed to do quite a few nights a week. I can't angle like that now, mate. I just do not have the time. I'm literally doing quick overnighters, and I do mean quick overnighters. So I think I just need to change up the way I fish a little bit. I need to get much more mobile, much more willing to move. And I think to do that, it helps just refining everything down a little bit. So yeah, I'm looking at the scopes, or retractable rods, should I say. I think I'm going to cross over to the dark side.
Have you decided on a test curve yet?
No, I need to. I need to play with the rods really. I'm going to go for I'm going to get some Cotswold rods ones. I didn't really. They do some called Pace Compacts, which are 10-footers with the retractable butt. I didn't realize they're like pre-made in wherever. But they do some custom ones called the. Oh, damn it, I can't remember. They do some custom versions. The I want to say Spectacle, but it's not that. Can't remember. But anyway, they do like a custom version of their retractable rod, which is obviously built to specification, and it's all made by hand. So yeah, I'm going to get a set of them. Probably get 3.5s. I fish weedy waters to answer your questions. Yeah, probably 3.5 test curve. I just don't know if in a shorter rod that is going to be too stiff. I don't want to be losing fish or anything like that. I fish with braid as well, so I want to bear that in mind. So I don't know if the 3.5s are going to be a bit too pokey in a shorter rod. I really don't know how it would translate. In my head, a shorter rod would be a lot stiffer, and potentially I'd be more prone to hook pulls, but in actual reality, I don't know if that would be the case or not. I don't know if you've got any opinions on that, mate.
It's a lottery, isn't it? This is the trouble with any new rods. Mate, I've not had my 10-foot, I've not caught enough fish on my 10-footers in that situation to give you any sort of sound advice, but mine are 3.25s. So I've moved away from the scopes and I bought the Sonic extractors, 10-foot, 3.25s.
You've only just had these though. You've been catching all your fish on the 9-foot scopes, right?
Yes.
And presumably you can talk about them.
Yeah. So my scopes in 9-foot were 2.75 test per curve. So they were soft as well. I had them probably 6 or 7 years. And by the time I sort of sold them, they had really softened up, noticeably so. I was saying to you before, like to cast a 3-ounce lead, I was nervous. Now, I had the Mark 1s. So the Mark 1s are notorious for the tip snapping. So I always had that in the back of my mind. Like I didn't really want to give it a big one, especially with a heavy lead. So anything sort of, 3-ounce and over, I would be scared to sort of really put the rod under stress on the cast. Playing fish wise, I just think they were lovely. They really were sort of lovely to play the fish on. I think any sort of shorter rod, like with your 9-foot rod, like playing a fish is great fun. You feel a lot more in contact with the fish certainly than a 12-foot rod. But they'd softened up, and the waters I was fishing now, more so than previous, had sort of they got a lot more weed, and I was getting weeded up by bream. Do you know what I mean? Like a bream would pick up a lead and straight into the weed bed, and the rod would just be sort of keeled over. Do you know what I mean? They just weren't man enough for what I needed. Hence the sale, and I went to the extractors, and I do like the extractors. They are a fantastic rod for the money. But you've got to sort of bear in mind that they're 60 quid a rod. I don't think they're as nice as the scopes, but then the scopes are 200 quid a rod. So you've got to sort of factor that in. But yeah, mate, the extractors, they are great rods for the money. I guess I've got a little budget sort of set up at the minute, but I'm enjoying using it. The things I don't like about the extractors are they've got a very short butt section. So from the reel seat to the butt of the rod is very short in comparison with the scopes. So I find accuracy on big chucks is a problem for me. And the other thing I don't like about them is the line clip. They may as well not have a line clip because they are useless, absolutely useless. But that's it, really.
Yeah. The thing is, talking about what test curve to go for, it's not just about the test curve. It's the action of the rod. You can have a higher test curve, but it'd be like a reel through action and vice versa. So I think that factors in. So ideally I need to go and have a play with the rods.
You do. The trouble with that though is you won't be able to experience playing a fish. Do you know what I mean? That's the trouble.
Get the other guy on the end of the rod, pretend to be a fish, give it a bit, take a bit of line. Yeah, I know what you mean, mate. I know what you mean. But yeah, anyway, so it largely doesn't matter, does it? I'll sort it out. Yeah, I think crossing across to your dark side, mate. Your voodoo. How far do you reckon you could chuck a lead with your 3 1/4s, your 10-foot 3 1/4 Sonic ones?
When I got them, I gave them all to chuck in one of the fields down the road. And that was with £12 mono, and I was hitting 90 yards sort of regularly. That's without a lead, bare lead, without a rig. Sorry,
no rig. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was just 90 yards, sort of like every chuck. But that was in really, really windy conditions. So I put myself in a crosswind, basically. So I wasn't casting into the wind, didn't have the wind behind me. Realistically, without the wind, I'd get them further, a lot further. But my actual fishing, I don't fish those distances, so I wouldn't know.
Are you going to be accurate at 90 yards, do you reckon, or 100 yards?
Me, no, but I don't fish those distances regularly. With practice, probably, but no. But I think that's more down to me being the end user rather than the product.
Yeah, but you're casting it how you would do to place it, where you're not doing like a mad side beach cast or anything to get it like that.
No. Yeah,
yeah. So you could get it accurate for sure. Yeah. Yeah, fair enough, mate. Yeah, I'm quite excited to have a little bit of a play with them, to be honest. Yeah, definitely. Also, just like reducing the amount I take. Sounds silly, like my tripod. I've got a really heavy tripod for my camera. It can go up as high as my head, and I'm 5'11". I don't need that kind of tripod for carp angling, do I? So like even things like changing that for something lighter and maybe a bit smaller pack down. My backpack, I'm getting an even smaller one. Just everything, just like really refining down. Even my barrow. You first told me about the Fox Explorer, is it?
Yeah.
And I've since seen someone on the bank with one, who I've sort of got friendly with, and had a little look at his, and they're just nice and small and dinky, and yeah, everything. I just want to get smaller. I mean, I know largely it doesn't. You're banging it on a barrow. Does it really matter? I kind of think it does to a certain degree. So yeah. Anyway, to long-winded answer to whatever came about, I think what I've been doing is just refining down my gear and figuring out what I'm going to do for this year going forward, to be honest with you.
Here's one for you, mate. So with your shorter sort of rods, and presumably you'll be getting a 2-piece like landing net handle or something to go with those. What about a brolly, mate? Are you still going to stick with your big sort of chunky brolly? Would you be looking at maybe like a smaller shelter, something that packs down a little bit smaller?
Well, you say my big chunky brolly, it's just a 60-inch brolly, isn't it? It's just the ESP brolly.
Yeah, but it's exactly what I've got.
Yeah,
but it doesn't fit in your holdall. Do you know what I mean? It's the same sort of pack down as your 12-foot rods, isn't it? It's a 6-foot bit of kit. Do you think you'd be looking at getting something smaller?
I don't know. I like the ESP hideout, as you know. I've spoken about this. I think I spoke about this probably over a year ago. Yeah, I mean, I like the fact I don't need the storm poles and all that jazz. I don't know. I mean, obviously a 50-inch brolly would pack down a little bit smaller. I used to use a 50-inch brolly, but I don't know. I suppose you could go too far with it, couldn't you? Do you know what, mate? I haven't thought about that. Don't know. Pass.
Remember the Nash Recon brolly? I think I put you onto that, didn't I? You see that fitted in the 9-foot scope holdall.
Mate, that was horrendous. That's
a little bit tight.
Oh my God. I'm used to a fifth. I mean, I had a 50-inch Nash Hog, was it? Ground Hog or Hog? I loved that brolly. That was an awesome bit of kit. Slate Nash all you want, but that was a freaking good brolly years ago, obviously. So I was happy with that 50-inch, but the Scope Recon, was it? That's a step too far. It's fucking tiny. Yeah, that's too much for me. I'm too old to be like cramming myself in that thing. No.
You know what I find with the ESP one? I just wish they had sort of slightly sort of flatter ribs at the back. I find my bed chairs right up at the front.
Yeah, I like that.
Okay.
Mm. The thing is, you can move the extending ribs.
Mm-hmm.
You can move them so wide, so the front's
yeah.
so low, you're going to get the rain off of you, even if you're open fronted. So the bit of space at the back where you put your stuff back there, don't you? It doesn't bother me at all, really.
Mate, yeah, no, I get it. It's just acres of space at the back. It's my only gripe with it. I think it's a fantastic bit of kit, and I won't be getting rid of it anytime soon.
There we go. Anyway, at the minute, we can't do nights, can we? We're stuck with days with this new lockdown. So, I mean, I know you're probably not going to be doing that much carp angling. But if you were, how would you be going about your day angling? Because I think that's probably a question on a lot of carp anglers' minds at the moment.
First of all, like, day sessions are, I really enjoy doing day sessions. It just reminds me of being young again. When you used to do primarily sort of day fishing. How would I change it up? Just being prepared to be mobile, watch the water. It's the same old boring stuff, isn't it, really? But location is key, especially this time of year. You got to find the fish, haven't you? You got to find the fish and prepare to be mobile. From an angling perspective, I think just baiting lightly, with sort of like using liquids. Liquids are your friend, aren't they, this time of year?
Yeah.
And go from there. I know at the moment, mate, I don't want to steal your thunder. You've been using ground bait, haven't you?
Yeah.
Is there anything you want to sort of go into?
With ground bait, or how I do days?
Just, I guess, well, both, but ground bait in particular. It's becoming quite popular again, isn't it? Ground bait. And I was just wondering, sort of, I know you've been using it a little bit. I'd be quite interested if you're using like a dedicated ground bait, or if you're really sort of blending up your boilies and creating your own thing. I just think it's quite a good topic.
No, I mean, in winter, I've always used boilie crumbs. So just blitz boilie up in the blender. The thing is, in the winter, you don't want to feed them up. Well, me anyway, I'm fishing just for a bite. I'm not looking for a hit. I mean, I don't fish those kind of waters anyway, but you're just looking for a bite in the winter. So you don't want to feed the fish up, but you want lots of attraction. And the location really, I mean, location is always important. In the winter, it is even more so because the fish are not moving anywhere near as much, generally speaking. So yeah, I've used boilie crumb for a long time because it doesn't fill them up. It takes on liquids very, very well, which obviously don't fill up the carp, but emit lots of food signals. But yeah, ground bait. To answer your question, no, I use them ready-made ground bait. I'm using Kenny Gates bait. I've spoke about that before. And he has these ground baits that it's not just, he hasn't just like put the base mix in a bag and so he's actually worked on them quite extensively, as far as I can gather. He's quite proud of them, and rightly so. They're very good. So it's a dedicated ground bait. He gives me this like glug stuff to use with it, but I add my own bits as well. At the minute, I'm adding essential oils. Now, you obviously would want to be careful. Essential oils are highly concentrated. You can definitely overdo them. Most of them you can definitely overdo very easily. But as it's winter, I am using some essential oils at very low levels in with the ground bait. So what I do is I make up my liquid with a blend of things I like to use at this time of year, and I add some drops of essential oil in that. You can definitely smell it. It definitely comes through. I'm fishing with that. And just a hook bait over the top. Not really using any free offerings in the form of boilies. That tends to be how I fish in the winter. And sometimes I'll add in liquids as well. just on their own without the aid of any boilie crumb or ground bait or anything like that. Of course, I'm using my own hook baits as I always do. Yeah, that's pretty much it, mate. It's trying your best to find the fish is absolutely key. Can often be very, very hard. But yeah, that's basically what I'm doing.
I think something I'd recommend to people, and this is something I've made the mistake previous years, and looking at my fishing now, I'm not doing myself any favors again, but would be selecting your water, especially if you want to catch a few fish. It's hard enough as it is in the winter, but fishing the right water and fishing a venue that's shallower, I think is probably pretty sound advice.
Definitely. There's a reason I've been able to get a winter ticket on this this place that's quite hard to, freaking ball breaker. Yeah, this is the thing. I mean, do you want to? It's horses for courses, isn't it? Do you want to catch some fish in the winter? Nothing wrong with that. You need to get yourself to a higher stock venue, ideally that isn't overly deep. Equally, some people, just want to ride it out for maybe that one real special winter capture on the harder lakes. I mean, I don't know about you, like say if you caught your target fish or just a really special fish, it would kind of mean more to catch it in the winter than it would the spring, for example, wouldn't it?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Everything about it would just be, even the fish would just be looking prime, just everything about it would be a lot more special.
Yeah, definitely. I've always liked looking at like historics, special fish in their winter shots, for the rare times they come out in winter. You look at those shots and it's just like, well, I don't know, it stirs you up even more. It does me, at least.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, it can be difficult motivating yourself in winter because it's freaking cold. Obviously, everything's just a little bit more miserable. There's not as much daylight, so you can't watch the water as much. You can obviously listen, but it gets a little bit harder from that point of view. If you add on top the fact that you're fishing a low stock water, it can get quite hard and demotivating. But it hasn't bothered me that much this year, to be honest. I haven't fished there that much. As I said, I've only done 2 nights and 3 days in the last 2 months. Month and a half. But I guess I'm used to blanking, so it doesn't really bother me.
But you've got a chance for a bit of magic, haven't you? That's the difference.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it'll happen as well, mate. I don't mean to sound big-headed at all. I'm not. But I think I'll have one. I do. I've got a feeling.
Nice. It has been super cold as well, isn't it, recently?
Yeah.
Are you saying it's literally got a lid on it now, is it?
The whole lake is solid. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not. So yeah, what we were having a chat earlier, weren't we, on the phone? You were like, it's colder up here. And I'm like, well, it's pretty cold down here, mate. But yeah, lakes aren't sort of frozen over down here like that.
We left the house earlier. It was -4.
Okay. Yeah, it's fucking cold.
Yeah, it might be -4.5, I think the car said. Proper cold round here. Yeah.
Yeah, no, fair enough. I mean, I did a night last week and it was bitter. I was a bit annoyed because I wanted to do a night earlier in the week, and to be honest, I wasn't feeling very well. Don't really want to bore people, but yeah, whatever. Wasn't really feeling very well, and it was the night where I knew we were forecast snow, and I really, really wanted to go out fishing, but I just knew if I went, I would have just screwed myself over. So I went a little bit later in the week, and yeah, absolutely bitterly cold. There were times in the night I'd wake up and think, like, what are you doing, Peter? But there's one of those, there's every chance that I could have caught something a little bit special. There's every chance, you're going to catch that winter fish. But like we were saying earlier with picking your lakes, I was looking out and thinking, I've probably got 40-foot depth of water in front of me if I just give it a remotely sort of half a half a decent sized chuck, I'm chucking into 40 foot of water. So I just don't think it's probably the best bet for a winter bite. But yeah, so that's it really.
What depth were you fishing in? You weren't fishing in 40 foot, obviously.
No. So I had fishing 2 rods. Probably about one of them was maybe, I don't know, 5 or 6 foot. The other one about 10, probably. Just rods in the edge, just little few handfuls of bait over each one.
Mm-hmm. Hmm.
So yeah, and talking of you saying you're using essential oils in your mix, I'd glazed my boilies in a little bit of essential oil, using the sweet orange oil, which I think everyone's sort of heard about on the podcast now, with Dean's exploits as well.
I get a lot of messages about that. I really do. Yeah. You're actually glazing your hook bait or your free offerings?
I was literally glazing the offerings.
That's ballsy with essential oil.
It is. But I tell you what, if you taste that oil yourself, it is not overpowering at all.
Sweet, isn't it?
It's delicious, to be honest. We were talking about like gins earlier, so I really enjoy sort of like the orange, like the blood orange gins or whatever. And I was thinking, like, I could put that in a gin and tonic. I think it would just make it even nicer. But it's delicious. And yeah, it's certainly palatable to me. I don't think it would, at that sort of levels I was putting on, would it be too much? Possibly. I don't know. It's not something I've really done before, to be honest. It was a first timer. Complemented the bait beautifully though. I was smelling it all night. I was enjoying it.
It's a good oil. It definitely is. It's one of the better oils that I've experimented with this year for sure. So yeah, thanks to Dean for that, really, wasn't it? It was Dean that put us onto that in our first chat with him.
Yeah, it was. I mean, I don't want to sound sort of like one-upsman, but I actually got my bottle before that podcast.
Oh, Pete.
Never used it, but I did have a bottle of orange sweet because I had seen it on a forum somewhere.
Oh my gosh, you just yeah. That's what you do, isn't it? Let other people do the hard work and then jump on it. She'll start on it.
Yeah, well, it'd be silly not to, I guess.
I'm joking.
I could buy every essential oil in the essential oil shop.
That's literally what I've done.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. Essential oils. Oh man, I've said this before, but they're just underused. Like, they used to be quite fashionable, to be fair. I think when we started using them, they were just used a lot more, and I just think now a little bit forgotten about, maybe. I don't know. I tell you what, though, we actually had a question earlier, and it was just too long to answer, to be honest with you. So as we were recording this podcast tonight, I said, "Do you know what, mate? There's a lot of things to cover, so I'll just answer it tonight." And the question is, I mean, don't get mistaken, folks. The question isn't like, groundbreaking, and that's why we're covering it here. It's literally just because it was just be too much for me to type out. He literally asked just before we started recording, so I thought, you know what, I'll just answer it in the podcast. So it's Andy. He said, blah 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 blah. A few questions. Why can't you add as many amazing liquids, etc., to a bait as suggested in a previous listener's question? I know you mentioned choose what you want to aim for, sort of thing. Does this have too many really good liquids or ingredients mix up the sig? So he's basically saying, why can't you just say if there's like 5 really good liquids that you're a fan of, why can't you just use them all? Or is it like mixing up the signals and making it more ineffective or something? That's basically what he's asking. That's the first part of his question. Let's start with that one. What would you say to that, Pete? I've obviously got a strong opinion on this, but you go for it, mate.
Well, there's 2 sides to it, isn't there? First of all, do you know what? If you're confident in it, mix them all together and put them in and sort of see how your results go. I've done it in the past, and I can pretty much, talking from experience, know that I'm not getting any more spectacular results from doing that. I think it's very much a case of just picking what you're confident in and using it in that bait, and picking a liquid that you know is going to complement the ingredients within the bait. Now, that's saying sort of like a certain liquid you might think would complement one ingredient in a bait. Another one would complement a completely different base mix in a different bait. But realistically, you don't know until you've tried it and you've tested it.
Yeah, that's what it boils down to, actually, doesn't it? You know, you can get as fancy with the answers as you want, but it boils down to, does it work better or not? Like, I think it was, I can't remember who's, one of our podcast guests said it. It might be Dean. He said the fish will tell you everything you need to know. He basically, what he's saying, if it was Dean or whoever said it, basically what they're saying is you just need to test it. Like, you can theorize all you want. Is theorize a word? You can have a theory all you want. You got to test it on the fish. They will tell you if it's right or not. For me, it's just like a lot of things that you could use, they might be doing the same thing. So they might be really effective because they've got a lot of monosaccharide, like a simple sugar in, for example, or they might be really effective because their yeast content or their amino acid. You could add in a couple of liquids that are basically bringing the same things to the party. Now, they might be bringing slightly different things as well, and they might be giving different leak off rates, solubility rates, etc. So that could be a plus. But I guess that would be one reason why you wouldn't want to confuse things. As well as that, personally, I've said this myself to Dean. I don't think we went anywhere with it, and I don't know if he agreed or disagreed. I can't remember, to be honest, because I was pissed. But I think maybe you can have too much going on. Like, I've likened it to lighting up different lights within the carp. Let's say amino acids light up one light, and then maybe like yeast will light up a different light, sugar will light up a different light. Is it a case of the more lights that you light up in that carp's brain, the better? Or actually, does it somehow diminish things? And then on top of that, you know, does the combinations of lights that you're lighting up, does that matter? I think you can overdo it. I really, really do. And I think it can get to a point where it's counterproductive. So hopefully we're answering this question. I mean, first off, test. Second of all, just be aware that maybe adding lots of different liquids or powders or whatever together, it might come to a point where more is not better and they're almost working against each other and confusing the carp and maybe putting the carp off a little bit.
Yeah. Do you find you always sort of head back to the same old liquids?
No. No, because I'm finding out about, I'm finding new liquids all the time. I'm trying new things all the time. I mean, there's some time, you know, there's some things I've used for ages that you can't get anymore. L030, freaking great. Haven't been able to get that for a long time. You know, so you move on to something else. In my case, I like the Salmigo. So some things you're forced to change away from because they're no longer very available. Other things, I mean, like molasses, you know, Timeless Classic, not the biggest fan of it myself. I know you love it, Pete. But no, to answer your question, no, I'm always using different things. Yeah, no, I think I think if anything, I'm probably the opposite. And sometimes I'll forego what I know works really well in the hope that you're finding that like wonder ingredient, that wonder liquid. And I think a lot of people are guilty of that. You're always looking for that sort of magic bullet. So no, I don't think so, mate. I think I experiment a lot, but sure, there's some things that I mean, like we've spoke about this in length, the squid brand fish sauce. I think we spoke about that on our first or second podcast, and I've used that for many, many, many years, way before I was ever thinking of a podcast, way before podcasts even existed, or carp angling ones at least. That's something that I'll probably always use. I can't envisage a year roll by that I don't use squid brand fish sauce unless it goes under, and then, you know, it's on to something else, isn't it?
Yeah, timeless classic. And you mentioned earlier, like molasses for me, especially in winter. If I'm doing a winter mix or something, I just like molasses in there.
Yeah,
It's a
yeah, yeah,
attractor.
it definitely is. Definitely inexpensive as well.
Completely, completely.
Mm. Hopefully, we've answered the first part of Andy's question. Second part was also washing out baits. I know it's a good tactic, but surely the liquids that have been added in first are wasted to an extent. Is this correct, or do you know to what level the ingredients, liquids, etc., are wasted? So I think he's saying if you add a load of liquids to your boilies and then wash them out, well, that's you're undoing the work, which I would agree with. That's kind of pointless. So I mean, it depends what you mean by adding the liquids. If you mean adding the liquids to the eggs and then rolling your bait, that's one thing. I mean, it's not just the liquids that will soak out when you wash out your baits. It's also the soluble ingredients. The whole idea of washing out baits, I think people get a little bit confused on. The whole like, oh, you're washing them out so they look paler, it looks like they've been on the lake bed for a while. Yeah, sure, there is an element of truth of that, but as well as that, by soaking your boilies in water, you can actually increase their attractiveness. Now, what do I mean by that? Let's just say you get a boilie out of the bag, throw it in the water. That boilie has to soak in water to its maximum capacity before it can fully leach out all its attractors, all of its food signals, right? Because it has to draw in water before it can pump out. So actually, soaking your boilies for 24 hours before you put them in the lake bed, as soon as you put them in the lake, they're actually letting out attractors immediately. So it can actually make them more attractive in the short term. Now, of course, because you're soaking it in water, yeah, you're going to get some of the solubles come out. So that definitely factors in. What I wouldn't do is hydrate my baits with a liquid and then go and wash them out in water. Because, yeah, you're right. That would be total waste of time because you're washing off the liquid additives that you've soaked your baits in. So I wouldn't do that. It just depends how you go about doing it. Am I clear on that, Pete, or not? What's your opinion?
Yeah, everything you said sort of made sense. So there's a couple of two different things I'd add. So first of all, a lot of people talk about washing in, don't they? So rather than washing sort of like the liquid attractor or the soluble ingredients out of a bait, people are washing with a liquid of choice. So that way the bait's absorbing, I guess, more attractors in the process. Realistically, is it going to lose some attractors from outside of the bait? Yeah, probably. But it depends how much liquid you're putting them in. If they're absorbing all the liquid, then they're only taking it in. But I think for me, the main reason why washed out baits are so good is because they soften the bait up. I think that's a huge factor. So like you alluded to, Sam, when the bait's super soft, then they're releasing all of their attractiveness anyway. And I personally think carp very much so enjoy a softer bait. And that's something I do now, especially if I'm not prepared. I don't mind putting hot water on my baits now to speed that process up, to really soften them up. If I'm not organized and I haven't got a couple of days beforehand, the bait I'm using at the moment is super hard. That's one thing I really don't like about it. It's too firm. The company air dry them. They're not freezer baits. They're not exactly a shelf life bait, but he air dries them basically. They're stored air drying. So when you get them, I feel like they've lost a lot of that freshness. And I like to give them a good soaking before I go fishing. So if I'm a little bit unorganized or I'm going on a spur of the moment trip, I'll use hot water, which speeds that process up, and I don't hesitate to do that. Yeah, I think softness has a lot to do with it, more so than the color of the bait or the attractiveness of the bait or losing any attractors. I just think carp enjoy eating a nice, soft, easy to eat bait.
Yeah. Cool. Hopefully that helps, Andy. Talking of bait, what are your plans this year, Pete? You've flitted around with different baits, haven't you? You've been trying lots of different things out. Do you know what you're going to do bait wise for 2020? Are you getting on a bait and campaigning with it, or are you just going to mix and match like you did last
Probably
year?
not. I'm probably going to mix and match, if I'm honest, because I can't help myself but to do that. And I think most of guys who listen to this, most of our listeners are bait guys, and they'll understand that. I think it's an addiction that we've got. We've got to sort of piss about with bait, and the only chance you get with testing and pissing about with it is in your own fishing, and that's realistically probably what's going to happen. I'm going to fish more this year with nuts. That's probably going to be my stable thing. Okay, so I'm not going to change that around too much. And then also, I'm toying with the idea of rolling up a bait, and I'm toying with the idea and joining the hydro crew, and I want to make my own hydrolyslate, a nut-based one.
Hydrolysate.
I said it, yeah, hydroly. I said it.
Yeah, but then you said slate.
Fucked up again.
Yeah.
You hate it, don't you?
I really do, mate. It annoys me. It also annoys me when you call the podcast a pod.
The pod, yeah. Should we just crack on with the pod? Come on. But that's my my thing with bait this year. So I think nuts, you know what? I can't really tinker too much with nuts. Yeah, you can, I know, with the preparation, but that's going to be my stable thing when it comes to pre-baiting and everything. That's my one consistent. It's going to be with bait is going to be nuts. Okay, so I feel I can prepare lots. I can always have them in the freezer. I can be ready, and then I can tinker with bait as I always do.
I mean, you know what I do with my nuts. That sounds odd, but are you going to be doing similar thing to what I do, or are you doing something different?
So my plan is I'm probably going to be soaking them in molasses. To be honest, I'm going to be soaking them in molasses and cooking them in the molasses, and I'm going to leave them to sort of get all gooey and to ferment, and that's probably as far as it's going to go with my nuts.
And when you say molasses, I'm like mixed with water, obviously.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So, I mean, the process is going to be a pretty simple one. Just nuts in a vessel. And I'm going to mix boiling water with some molasses and leave them for 24, 48 hours. Boil them up and then leave them for 5 or 6 days. Let them ferment, get all gooey, and then dose them up into freezer bags and leave them in the freezer. And then that's it, done. You know, they store well in the freezer. And it's just confidence, isn't it?
Yeah. So nuts are going to be part of your armory going into 2021. What else did you say you were doing?
I want to make a nut hydrolyslate slate. Do you know how I say it? Hydroslate. Anyway,
do you know how it's really said? Hydrolysate.
Go on.
Hydrolysate. I don't know why you struggle with it, mate. It really annoys me.
Yeah, I know it does.
Yeah.
Anyway, we'll call it hydro. Mate, every bait group you're in, you see all the hydros and things. I've seen people talking about the BAF, so British Aquafeeds. I think they do a nut hydro.
I've got one. Literally, I've got one on my office desk right in front of me. BAF hydro nut. Yeah, promise you.
Smell
BAF
nutty.
hydro nut. I'll give you the ingredients: defatted peanut protein, sugars, water, citric acid, preservative E2O2.
Wow. Okay. Interesting.
Sorry, mate. I interrupted you. I just got excited that I had it in front of me when you mentioned it. It's nothing.
First of all, dark horse, going and buying some nut juice. But yeah, like read the ingredients for me again. Sorry.
So defatted peanut protein, sugars, water, citric acid, preservative E2O2, which is potassium sorbate, isn't it? E2O2.
I think so, off the top of my head.
It is.
So. I mean, that's pretty common.
Yeah, it is.
So they are using the nut or peanut protein meal, aren't they, for the base for that liquid?
They sell a defatted peanut protein powder. I'm sure they do.
Yeah, they do. Which is the base of that. Which is interesting because I wasn't going to use that. I was just going to use a ground down peanut meal. Man, I don't know enough about it. It's just from what I've been sort of reading into. You see, so doing something like that, if I was to buy that defatted protein powder to make my own, I'd be better off buying theirs. Do you know what I mean? It's probably been way more cost effective for the levels that I'll use. But it's something I'm interested in, mate. Like you with your amylase and your nuts, it's just doing that process, isn't it? And letting it sort of do its thing. And
what do you mean? Let it do its thing.
Well, in the fermentation bucket, sort of like just doing the whole process.
It's got a preservative in it.
What, the bath one?
Yeah.
So presumably it's not active anymore.
Well, of course not.
No. Yeah, I just wouldn't use their like the protein powder, the nut protein powder, or the high protein nut powder, or whatever it is, the defatted stuff. It starts to get expensive. I don't know, mate. It's interesting, isn't it? I don't see many of the guys in the Facebook groups doing their own nut hydros. A lot of it's sort of fish based, animal based. You see loads of the Robin Red, like hydro.
I don't
bought some of that as well, haven't you?
I bought some just because. I mean, I don't really go on these groups. I've poked my head in, and I think a lot of it's just, I don't know. I don't want to badmouth anyone, but a lot of it is like they have these collective ideas which are really flawed. But I mean, how do you go in and like broach that subject? Well, actually, you're all wrong. You can't, can you? So it's just, I just don't. There's a lot of you know what I'm on about, Pete. There's a lot of things that they all kind of take as gospel, which is just completely fucking ridiculous, to be totally honest with you. So I don't really like these groups, but yeah, you know, everyone's mad on the hydros in them, isn't there? There's this guy that sells the Robin Red hydro, and yeah, I bought some just to see if it's as good as everyone says it is. So yeah, but that's as far as I've gone with it, to be honest.
Have you used it yet?
Yep.
Okay.
Used it on my
this is going to be
pond fish.
Yeah, I was going to say this is going to be controversial, isn't it? But what did your pond fish make of that, Sam?
Have I told you about it or not?
No, but I knew you'd have tested it on them, obviously. Yeah. This is trouble with your pond fish, isn't it? Because I've been using a legendary Cornish bait, haven't I? And you're just like, mate, you felt actually guilty or bad telling me, didn't you? But you're just like, my fish fucking hated it.
You want to be careful.
Still sat there at the bottom of your pond.
You want to be careful what you're saying, mate. You really do.
No,
you're flying a bit close to the mark here.
I'm just going off what you've told me, mate.
Yeah, but I'm not saying it. They'll be after you, mate. You know what they're like. Well, I'm saying shit.
The Cornish mafia.
The Cornish mafia, mate. They'll be fucking after you. Look, here's the thing: when you're testing things in a tank or in my case, a pond, it might be totally freaking different out in the lake. It might be awesome, mate. I can literally only report on what I test, and yeah, that bait you sent down didn't fare that well. To be honest, we sent 2 baits, to be fair, didn't you? One of them was better than the other. One of them was a lot better than one, actually.
Yeah.
And yes, and look, same with this Robin Red Hydrolyse. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it's turning carp off, but it nowhere near as freaking good as they all raving about. But then again, it's what you compare it to, isn't it? If you compare it to dishwater, it's going to be better. I mean, I'm probably sounding disrespectful now, but you know, it's all relative.
Awful.
Yeah, it does sound awful, doesn't
it?
You got to understand.
But what people have to remember,
I'm feeding my fish like I test in so many different freaking ingredients, and I'm not feeding them boilies now because of the time of the year, but I'm giving them lots of food and different things. they are getting fed what I've whittled down to be like the most attractive, palatable, etc., etc. So they're getting a pretty freaking their like favorite diet. So I'm almost thinking, well, actually, am I then clouding the results of things because almost like they're spoilt, for want of a better phrase? Do you know what I'm trying to say? So again, in a real angling situation, that Robin Red hydrolysate might be freaking amazing. But not to my little diva carp who was spoiled. I don't know, mate. I really don't know.
Yeah, no, mate, it's just fascinating. I think it's fascinating. I'm quite jealous of your carp. And I do think there'll be stuff I'll be sending you this year for you to test out on them.
Yeah.
I really do. I take great pleasure in, I don't know, mate, it's another chance for a conversation and finding out. Do you know what I mean? Just experimenting.
Yeah. I know what you mean, mate. It's like we always say, it's like two hobbies, isn't it? You've got fishing and then you've got bait making. And then it's almost like I've got testing foods on fish. That's like almost like a third thing. It's different from bait making because there's so many other variables and different things, you know, in it's almost like I've now got like a third hobby, you know, keeping the carp. But it's all good, isn't it? It's just another way to get immersed in angling when you're not actually angling, isn't it, really?
Should we talk about your fourth hobby?
Oh, what's that?
That rolling pop-ups, mate. Rolling hook baits.
Well, I said bait making was I said angling, bait making, and then feeding my fish. So you've like that is one of them, Pete.
No. Okay. Rolling hook baits for our listeners.
Oh, yeah, I'm supposed to have done that.
I see.
I haven't done it, have I? No.
No.
Yeah.
Busy
Nice.
Christmas.
I have actually. Had a lot of online quizzes I've done, you know, Zooms with family. Yeah, what Pete's getting at is I should have rolled a load of hook baits for you guys, so and I haven't. Yeah, I'll get on the case, mate. I will. We have had so many messages. I don't think we'll actually need to advertise them when they're all rolled. I really, really don't. I don't know if you've been seeing the messages. We've had a lot of on Facebook as well, to be fair, Pete. And I know Facebook is your domain. I mean,
the Facebook messages, I'm actually, well, we say let's not go into it, but I'm amazed. So Facebook gets like 25% of our traffic. And the amount of people who've messaged in and said sort of like, save me a tub. It's amazing, mate. And It's not only that, it will just do us the biggest favor going in helping to support the podcast. So, yeah.
The only downside
sort
is
of like maybe June time.
It will be before June, folks. Don't worry. You'll have, if you want some hook baits from us, you'll have them by spring. I've said that now, haven't I? It's out there in the ether. We'll make it happen soon. But yeah, the only downside is we're going to have to sell a lot of tubs to actually cover all of our costs. It's not cheap, is it? But anyway, we don't want to be bitching about that.
No.
Unlike
other podcasts. It's oh God, don't start this again. He's had a few beers.
Keep it quiet.
No, I mean, we did as well have an offer. We had an out of the blue message for a company interested in sponsoring the podcast. I don't think it's going to sort of amount to anything, but we're certainly open to it, aren't we? If somebody was had a product or a company out there wanted to sort of speak to us about sponsoring the podcast, we certainly wouldn't be closed doors, put it that way. I know we don't ever want to sort of like monetize or sort of make money or be bound to commercial obligations. But if there was somebody who had a product and they wanted to speak to Samurai or to have their product mentioned on the podcast in a commercial sense to help us fund it, we'd certainly be open to that. Would you agree?
I don't know, mate. I don't know, to be honest, because I don't know. I'd have to really buy into whatever it was that they were selling. Like, do you know what I mean?
I agree, dude.
Yeah, I
It's
don't know.
difficult, isn't it? And
I would
I
rather
wouldn't
just
want
support it from
ever.
Sorry, carry on.
I just wouldn't ever want to have that sort of obligation to do so many episodes because such and such wants us to provide this much content. You know what I mean? It's got to be on our terms in a nice way. But I don't want to push forced content, which probably won't be as good for the listener.
Well, as well as that, I just wouldn't want to. I mean, I'd have to really buy in, like, really believe in their product or whatever it was that they were selling. And I don't know. To be honest, I'd rather just sell our hook baits and have that support the podcast. The downside is we'd have to sell so many pots of hook baits to cover the costs. I just don't see it happening. But who knows? To be fair, how many people have we had wanting to reserve pots? A lot. So maybe we'll just do
I think
we'll
be fine.
Yeah, maybe. But I think, I mean, how many pots would we have to sell to cover the costs? Talking hundreds. Because we are not going to have much of a markup on them. They're not going to be cheap pop-ups to buy, unfortunately. But the markup is pretty minimal. We got to shift a lot of those, mate. So I don't really.
Yeah, it's true.
But who knows?
It's true. And it's like anything. Like we've already purchased a lot of ingredients, but for each run, our costs maybe, I don't know, it'll work out in time maybe. But it's just it's for the love. We're not doing it as a business, are we?
No, we're not. We're not, mate. Definitely not. Well, anyway, I think we're like waffling. Anything else you want to add to the podcast? Anything you want to talk about, mate? Anything that's burning that you want to get off your chest?
Nothing burning, no. I think now's probably a good time to round it up. It's probably a good time to mention as well the competition we're running with the giveaway, which you can enter by giving us a review on the iTunes podcast app. So the guys who don't have iTunes, I think it's fair to say a few of them have left reviews on our Facebook page or comments, and they've said that they don't use iTunes, so they've left reviews there. So if that corresponds to you,
good enough.
You don't use iTunes. No, it counts, mate. We are counting them. I'm counting them because I'm not an iTunes user, so that's fair enough. But there's a minimum number of reviews. Am I right in saying that, Sam?
We need. Well, no, people just leave us one review each.
No, that's right. Yeah, but we need a minimum number of reviews.
Yes, podcast gone downhill, isn't it? I think we're both pissed.
Of course it has.
we're waiting until we get 100 reviews. We're on like 77 reviews.
Yeah,
on iTunes.
The trouble is with this is we can't actually count the podcast, the Facebook ones, can we, and stuff?
Well, we can just go through it all.
Oh, Jesus, that's an effort, isn't it? People have said, I don't have iTunes, but I'll leave a review, and they've left lovely comments and stuff on things, but actually it's kind of difficult to add them in, isn't it?
We've got to somehow add them in. That's not fair otherwise.
No, I agree.
Yeah, we'll have to figure that out off air.
So 100 iTunes reviews, and then we'll go through all the others. So once we hit 100, we got 77 on iTunes. Once we hit 100, we'll go through the others at that point, and then pick a winner.
Yeah. So look, and by the way, this is not the winner for the best review. Like, leave us a review. Be honest. If you want to tell us we're shit, go ahead and do that.
Jesus, they might win.
They might. We won't pick. We'll choose someone. No, I'm joking. Look, no, whoever comes. Look, if you want to tell us, it's fine. We'll still enter you. Whatever. We will send on the goods to you. We'll be a bit bitter about it. Whatever. No, I'm joking. Look, leave us an honest review. I don't give a shit. We want honest feedback. Yeah, everyone's entered. So yeah, I just wanted to. Anyway, I'm waffling. I wanted to make the point. This is not a competition for the best review. We will add everyone's name into some kind of random online drawer. We'll draw out a name, and that person will be the winner. And you will win about 100 quid's worth of stuff, probably over 100 quid's worth. And yeah, happy days. So you know what? It's the kind of thing, like, lots of people think, oh, fuck it, I ain't going to take the time to leave a review because I ain't going to win and whatever. Did I tell you I've won 2 competitions in the month of December? Did I tell you about this?
You serious? No.
Yeah. So just quickly, there's this lady who she is a she's a Hashimoto consultant. Hashimoto's is an autoimmune disease, which basically your body breaks down your thyroid tissue. It affects your thyroid. So, and on the side, I won't mention her, obviously, I won't tell her name, but she sometimes comes to me for advice and like, oh, like, there's X, Y, and Z. What do you make of X, Y, and Z, and blah, blah, blah. So anyway, I'm in her group. And she's actually recently given that up because presumably she wants like an easier, less, intensive way of life. And she just does it for general health advice for people. And she also sells a bit of Body Shop, which is a million miles away from the skilled job she did before. But anyway, so I entered into 2 of her Body Shop competitions, didn't I? First time, like, it came up like, pick a number and like whoever gets the right number, you're right. And I was like, well, I know that's going to be number 14. I know it sounds odd. I just looked at it. I was like, it's 14 is the winner. So I was like, fuck it. I'm just in this group to support her, basically, morally. So I was like, fuck it. I'll put my name in there just for a laugh. I won that straight away, which was this like face mask.
What did you win?
It was a Japanese matcha face mask. Big pot of worth, I don't know, 20 quid, something like that. And then the next one she did, I entered that as well. And I guessed that number right as well. So I won this other face mask stuff, this like vitamin C face mask. Anyway, didn't think I'd win that, but I did. So if anyone meets me out, you'll notice my skin is looking pretty. So moral of the story, you never know. You might win, folks.
Yeah. Many entrants to these competitions?
50.
She should have waited for the 100 review mark, shouldn't she?
50, that's
she got 10 reviews.
Exactly. That's half of what we're going for, isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, she wasn't waiting for reviews. It was pick a number. But yeah. Anyway, moral of the story is you never know. Let's go ahead. Leave us a review.
You never know. Cool. All right, mate. Well, I think that rounds it up, yeah?
Yeah, I think it's been a long tail to this podcast. If you're still listening, thank you so much. Thank you for all your support. Thank you for your messages. We appreciate you. We enjoy it. We like doing this. Next podcast will be with Tommy Bish, mostly about photography, lined up in the future as well. We plan to get more bait guys on because a lot of people that listen to our podcast are really into the bait side of things. So we'll get more bait guests lined up for you. If you have any suggestions of who we should get on, by all means, reach out, message us, suggest those guests, or even leave it in a review if you like. Even better still, tag the people that you want us to interview in your comments on our social media so they can see it. We'll do our best to get them on. That's it from me. Pete, anything you want to add to that?
No, we're all good here.
We're all good. Thanks, folks. Take care. Stay safe. Lockdown. Enjoy your angling. And we will see you on the next episode.
Good night.
That was a flat good night from you.
It was, wasn't it?
Yeah, I did a nice roundup. You just like, good night.
Good night.
Yeah, do a good one.
Good night.
Yeah, be upbeat. I want upbeat.
Oh, good night, guys.
That's better. That's better.
That's as upbeat as it goes. Dang.
Yeah. Leaving all this in, I'm not editing it out.
Fine. Yeah.
Are you quite pissed?
Good night. Mate, yeah. Oh, yeah, I am.
I'm quite pissed.
You are.